Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. Happy Juneteenth, everybody. Oh, good to be back. Good to be celebrating a holiday with you all. As voted on by the Wicked community, we are going to do a Juneteenth roast. Oh, I'm looking forward to it. How is everybody doing? Wicked Foxy Dragon, delighted to see you. Wireless Mike, hello. Very much excited for this particular one. Hello, hello. Rex Trek, delighted to see you. Well, as you know, it's the Juneteenth roast, so we're gonna look at some pertinent things for the holiday. I have some thoughts on the holiday in general, and we're gonna be roasting folks. Let's start it off with this. Which member, and toss them in the comments, I'll have a look at during the segment and set them aside. Which member of the Trump family, to get us started off, would you like me to roast? It can be the obvious, or you could have some fun with it. I'll take any. So starting it off, Trump family members, who do you want roasted? Now, we have a rather interesting opportunity here. For the first time since, 1983, there's a new federal holiday. We've all agreed we're gonna celebrate this. So the question then becomes, how? Now, truth be told, I've seen a whole lot of sad sack stuff. I've seen a whole lot of things where people are saying, well, it wasn't happy circumstances that brought about this holiday, and that's true. On the other hand, let me tell you what an atheist household looks like during the wintertime. Really, you have dealer's choice. If you're not affiliated with a particular religion, but there's a bunch of time off available, it's on the table there, you're going to pick a holiday and have some fun. Why not? Basically every atheist household chooses Christmas. Mostly. Why is that? It's the most fun. There's a high degree of concentration of presents. There's not a set amount of presents. And the presents are allowed to be lavish. Plus, there's a tree with lights on it. It's very what do you call it? Kitschy, and kitsch is fun. So, if we want, and I'm just going to toss this out there, if we want Juneteenth to become a widely accepted thing that a lot of people participate in, and therefore end up hearing about the history of, so they know what they're celebrating, I propose to you all that we try to make Juneteenth a fun day. Yes, a fun day about a solemn thing, but, it's got the nickname and accurate description of America's Second Independence Day. That's a good thing, and I think we should hold that up. To that end, we've got some fellas from the Christian Broadcasting Network. I realize I go a little bit hard on the old Christians from time to time. I wanna hold up fans of that fella from Nazareth when they do good stuff too. They did a great segment on Juneteenth. Let's have a quick look. Oof, this is a rough one. There we go.
The day after Father's Day is Juneteenth, the newest federal holiday here in the United States. Well, joining us from our Washington, D.C. studio to explain the holiday's significance is Pastor David Anderson. Dr. Anderson is senior pastor of Bridgeway Community Church and founder and president of Gracism Global, an organization that helps build bridges to racial healing. David, Juneteenth is about the emancipation of slaves in Texas 2 years.
Side note, while I break up this extraordinarily solemn moment, if you see the fly that was with us in the last stream and you think, well, it's been a few days, is this a different fly? I don't think so. I've scooped it out of the house several times, but every time I let the dog out, it comes right back in, and I don't have the guts to confront it directly. So it's part of the stream now, just forever. I assume it's going to outlive us all. Anyway, back to Juneteenth.
After Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. So why should all Americans, not only African Americans, celebrate this day?
Well, Gary, first of all, it's so good to be with you again. And Juneteenth, I'm glad it's a national holiday. It's taken a long time for that to happen. And of course, on the heels of George Floyd being murdered, I think the consciousness of America was finally pricked to say, Black history really matters. And this is a significant part of Black history because it is the last time enslaved Africans could legally be enslaved. So you can only imagine how exciting it would be for anybody who has been in prison or enslaved or had a disease or whatever it may be. In their very last day, they walk away free.
So is Juneteenth the day to remember or lament?
Great question. And we should get to that. Want to pause it to say, speaking of escaping bonds of a sort, I realize it's not quite as bad. Tremendous understatement. But Rextrek, congratulations, man, on the retirement. Congratulations. That is awesome. I hope you have nothing but happy days ahead of you. And if you get bored, remember, you can do absolutely whatever you want. That's fantastic, dude. I'm so proud of you. Well done.
Well, probably a little bit of both, because whenever you look at history, you have to look at not only the sad parts of it, but also the joy that comes from it. And
True.
With our culture, there's a lot of sadness because, you know, Africans were kidnapped and enslaved for hundreds of years. And then they had to fight for, you know, civil rights and all of this for people who look like me, great-grandparents and ancestors. So, yeah, there's a sadness to it. But there's also something powerful about the ability to survive. And the Black family being able to even survive in any measure is an absolute miracle today based on the decimation of the Black family that took place from the transatlantic slave trade, and then the
An underappreciated point. Well done.
heinous slavery, chattel slavery on the soil of our own country, where
So, one thing to look out for in all of this generation, by which I just mean the people alive on Earth at the same time, everybody who's able to be conscious right now, we're going to be the ones that start the Juneteenth traditions. Now, granted, there are already Juneteenth traditions, but whether we intend to or not, the things that we do are going to be the things that our family does and our friends end up doing. So, if we want to put a happy spin on this to celebrate the upside of the day, so I suppose how the day ended rather than how it began, we might want to focus on things like this gentleman is saying. I think he's a pastor. So one thing, spending time with family, celebrating the miracle that, you know, families were able to be, some were able to remain together, some were created, and some were found. But the preservation of the family, there's one thing. So go see your family on Juneteenth and understand why you're doing that. And as the other fellow was saying, it's for all to celebrate. We are celebrating Americans being free at the end of the day. And if truly we are going to get past a point of race mattering, then all of us should rejoice. Not just because somebody else, somebody that I don't want to be mean to, their descendants got freed, but because Americans were freed. It was a major strive for Americans. We should all take ownership of that, pride in that. So I think it's appropriate that we don't have to work on that day.
Africans built the country
Yes.
for no fee, for no wage, and oftentimes under very horrendous conditions. So is there
Another idea. Yeah, Africans built this country. So, how do we translate that into a positive celebration? I would suggest have a barbecue this weekend and make an effort. If you can't do it, you can't do it. If there's no one around you, so be it. But make an effort to buy your supplies for that celebration, for that barbecue, etc. Buy them from a black-owned business. Will that make up for slavery? No. Not quite. But it's an acknowledgement. So, okay, Juneteenth, this day, you are going to purchase, whenever you choose to celebrate, you are going to purchase your supplies, if at all possible, from a black-owned business. And hey, we make this a tradition. We start doing this regularly. Guess what? You're going to come across some businesses maybe you haven't come across before. And you're going to start going there maybe regularly because you really like it. Baby steps are still steps.
Is there something to lament? No doubt about it. But is there something to celebrate? Yes. Freedom, survival,
Hell yes.
stick-to-itiveness,
Boom.
unity amidst great
Yes.
horror. And I think that's what our country is all about, reminding people that freedom may not be free, but it really does matter when you experience it.
And David, 158 years later, race and racism is still an issue here in the United States. Why is that?
Sadly, the institutions that have been set forth from the very beginning of the country on the foundational pillars of racism still stand to this day, and practices that many African Americans experience. And so racism is to speak, act, or think negatively about someone else solely based on their color, class, or culture. And so that's a bad thing. And when institutions surround that kind of idea, it can be really, really bad for people. And it had been for so many years. But legally, we've got it right. Now, morally and economically, we have to get it right. And that's what I'm hoping takes place through God's word, through the unity that comes through the brotherhood and the sisterhood of the family of believers, and then also through restitution in a way that we can help lift up the black family.
Okay, some good thoughts. Dr. David Anderson of Gracism Global. Always a pleasure to talk
with you, I imagine he said. Okay. That last part, the unity through the church. Oh, all right, fair enough. If y'all happen to believe the same thing, okay. But also unity through the nation. I'm not real big into borders as a way to divide people. But anything that unifies people, I'm for. Any old excuse to see each other as fellow travelers in a cold universe. Yes, unity through the nation. We are. If you live in America, all Americans. You want to be technical about it? If you live in North or South America, well, I guess we're all also Americans. Any old excuse. The freedom of people is something we should all rejoice in. And I think, yeah, taking the day off work is important on the actual day. And whenever you can get around to having a barbecue, try to buy from a black-owned business. And if you can, try to see your family and try to remind yourself why that is. And as I think I saw Wicked Foxy Dragon pointing out, not exactly like the Revolutionary War was a pleasant time either. So from a lot of horror can come a good thing, or at least we can celebrate, at the very least, the end to the horror. In this case, that is what we are doing. So even though, specifically, Juneteenth is talking about when freedom finally arrived in Galveston, Texas. Not to be confused with when the enslaved were told they were set free. It was a port town. They knew they were supposed to be set free long ago, but when it was finally demanded, insisted upon, and the slaves were freed, that's a good thing. And we should rejoice. Let's start the roast.